If you've got a mat, orient it lengthwise to the screen like I've got. It's totally okay if your room doesn't allow for it. It's not a big deal. It just helps a little bit so that we look similar. So we're gonna start on our backs with our feet flat on the mat, knees bent. And we're going to take a few minutes to just arrive. You can allow your knees to fall in towards one another if that feels good. But take a minute to make any little adjustments and find a spot that feels maximally supported and soothing. Turn your attention to the breath and feel it wash over you. We'll be going for about 50 minutes or so, but of course, at any point, you're welcome to leave. It's virtual. I'm not gonna block you out. And know that you can take a break at any point. There's a lot of movement offered for those who might crave that, but you're totally welcome and able to come to stillness. You can spend the next 50 minutes right in this spot if that's what you're craving. And honestly, sometimes not moving is the best thing we can do for our body, especially us intense emerge people. Okay. You can start to move your knees side to side ever so slightly, just tick-tocking them from like 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock. And take a minute to notice how that kind of activates some of the different muscles in our core in a very subtle way. You can tick-tock your knees side to side a little bit more, feeling how your lower back might lift off the mat as your knees go to the side, and then really feel that lower back stamp into the mat as the knees cross the midline. Great. I invite you to move twice as slowly to really experience that hip to core connection that we'll make use of in class. Once you even out the sides, pause for stillness in the middle. We'll have our palms face down near our hips and start to turn your attention to the foot that is closest to the computer screen. And imagine that foot slowly floating off of the mat without even taking it off. And notice how your low back automatically flattens to the mat and your core kind of engages. And I invite you to lift that foot a millimeter off the mat and place it back down. Repeat that a few times with your own breath, noticing that somehow these small movements can be really strong, even getting a little bit of core shake just from that. The next time your foot is up, allow it to continue the journey so that your shin's more or less parallel to the floor and your knee is above your hip. Take your opposite arm and now gently press into that knee and have the knee press back into the hand and feel your core activate from your far shoulder to the hip that is closest to the screen. Great. Then lengthen through your arm and leg. And then bend the knee, place a foot back on the mat, and place a palm down by the side. We'll do the same thing next side. So we're going to start with unweighting that foot that is farther away from the screen, just feeling that connection to our core, noticing how those muscles around our belly button automatically start to activate. And then when you feel ready, allow that far foot to float up. You can take your opposite palm and press into the knee. Excellent, feeling that core activation. Remembering to breathe throughout. And then let's lengthen through the arm and leg and place everything back down. Let's repeat that, moving on your own time with your own breath, alternating between the sides. I'm going to unweight my foot closest to the screen, allow it to float up, pressing into it, lengthening out, placing it back down. Unweight the far foot, press into it, lengthen out, and place it back down. If you're going on your own time, take a minute to even out the two sides. And now from here, we're going to focus on the bottom of both feet and allow those to float off the mat, really feel that connection to the core, and raise both shins up. Great. Now, we have some options. If your space is kind of tight or you've got a really hard floor, you're welcome to just kind of rock and roll side to side. If that feels okay and you got the space to do it, I invite you to rock towards the screen and land onto your side. Nice. Now we're going to take our top knee and shift it back and press on up into a twist. I'll move back just so you can see what my legs are doing. We've got a 90-90 position where our knees are more or less bent at 90 degrees. This is called Bharadvajasana. And we're going to twist towards our bent leg. Or rather away from the legs, I guess. Both of them are bent. Pause here. Some people like to put their palms down, but I find you can kind of crank. If you really just use your core, you can feel it kind of wringing out the tension like you're wringing out a towel. Awesome. And now from here, you can watch me take your arm that is farther away from the screen, send it towards the screen, and use that momentum to roll on the other side facing away. You can use your arms to sit up if you want. I'll repeat that a few times. So take your arm, send it across, rock and roll over. And I invite you guys to play with this movement. If you're like, Mel, this just broke my brain, no worries. You get the same benefits from rocking and rolling side to side like this. It looks like a little baby movement, but it actually takes a lot of core work. So feel free to play. And if any point feels really good to pause and stay in your twist, that's awesome too. Nice. You guys are tiny on my screen, so I just see little flashes of rolling every now and again, which is great. It looks fun. Okay, let's take a minute to even out the sides. If you want to go really fast, I find this really fun. I feel like I'm in like a spy thriller movie. Get a little bit of cardio into your yoga. But wherever you're at, let's return to the middle of the mat. Allow that heart to slow down if it started beating up a little bit fast. And we're going to pause again with our feet on the mat, knees bent, just like we did before. Take a minute to notice how you feel. I find I get a nice little massage in the glutes with that. And now we're going to place our palms behind our thighs as we lift our feet off the mat. And there's two options here. One is you can simply roll to your side and press on up like we did before. Or if you want to experiment with a little bit of rocking and rolling back and forth, feel free. And take your time. We're going to end up in this position with our feet flat on the mat. Once you're there and feeling good, I invite you to either stay here, or if you want to experiment a little bit, engage your shoulders up, back, and down, feel your core activate, and tip back a little bit into a Navasana boat pose. We can stay here for stillness, or if you want to explore, feel free to move your arms and legs like you're falling in slow motion. There's no right or wrong way to do this. The lower you go, the more your core will speak to you. The more you raise your back, you'll notice it's a little bit easier in the core, but the hip flexors are still working. Awesome. And I notice some are pausing for stillness. That's great. Wherever you're at, let's all now plant our feet, fold forward, take a well-deserved break. Lovely. Now, we're going to transition to a tabletop position. There's a really fun way to do this. Take your foot that is farthest away from the screen and cross it over the other foot. Take your arm that is closest to the screen, plant your palm with your fingers turning away from you. Reach up with your other arm, press into your feet, and bam, you're in tabletop position. Nice job, ladies, that looked awesome. I think we have Waleed here too, but I can't see Waleed, that's why I said ladies, but I'm sure you did awesome too, Waleed. All right, from our tabletop position, you can paw out your palms a little bit, palms underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips. We're gonna do a few of our standard cat-cows. So for cow position, we drop the belly, we shine our heart forward, and we isometrically pull our hands back without actually moving them. You can feel that dragging motion. Lengthen the front of the body, excellent. And now, on our next exhale, we round through the spine. You can imagine pulling your knees closer together, noticing how that really activates the core into cat pose. We'll play with that a few times. You can inhale into your cow, exhale into your cat, making sure that we're not doing anything to pinch in our lower back. This is one of those times where less is more. And if you want to experiment, you can try doing the opposite, where we exhale into cow and then inhale into cat. It can feel a bit weird, but it keeps it interesting, especially if you're somebody who has done a few yoga classes before. Now the next time you're in cat, let's pause here. Take your time getting there, there's no rush. So this is one where your spine is rounded, you're looking like that Halloween cat. Really feel that activation of the core and keep that activation as you lengthen out your spine to neutral. So that way, even though my spine is straight, it's not suctioned up again, I can still feel a little bit of that activation around the belly button. This will help us in our next move. You're going to take your knee that is farther away from the screen and send it out like so. Great. We're now going to take that knee and bring it towards our opposite elbow, kind of slicing across the body. Awesome. You can feel that core activate and then send it back. Great. We'll do this a couple more times, moving with your breath. I like to inhale as I send my knee up and then exhale as I bring it in. The next time your knee is in, we'll pause here and we're going to simply put our knee onto the mat and then allow our hips to come on down like so. Spin so that you're lengthening out through this back leg and then reach up and over for our Parivrtta Janushirshasana. Take your time getting here. I'll show you how we get there. You got your far leg, bring it towards the elbow, knees on the mat, and then spin on out like this. Looking good. A lot of people really want to grab for the foot, and you totally can, or well, you can try, but you don't necessarily get as many benefits. The key bit is really shining your heart up so that you're really feeling that lengthening down from your hip all the way to your upper fingertips. And you can keep a little micro bend in the knee too. There's no need to lock out the joint. Once you're here, I invite you to shine your heart up and down a little bit, noticing how that shearing motion can really wake up the core on that long extended side of the body. So less is more with this movement. You can see how I'm just kind of micro moving up and down. Awesome. Okay, so we're going to get out of this one. We're going to windmill our palms down facing the short edge of the mat. We're going to drag up that extended leg and then push on back to our tabletop with our knee up in the air. So let's play with that a few times. You can move on your own breath or you can follow me. You can bring the knee into the elbow, send it back, knee into the elbow, drop the knee onto the mat, sit the hips back, send out the top leg, and twist on over. Windmill the palms down, drag the knee back.
Mel, is this all the same side?
Yes, Yeah, we're going to switch to the other side soon. Feel free to unmute and ask questions at any point. I know it's a lot on one side. We're going to take a little break soon, I promise. And if there's any part that feels good, if you're like, no, I love this, I don't want to move anymore, stay here. Awesome. Stunning. Wherever you're at, we'll eventually finish in a tabletop position. We've been on the wrists a lot, so we're going to spread our knees apart, send our hips back, and reach out and forward with the arms to take some of the pressure off of our wrists, coming into a Bhaktasana devotional pose. You can allow your forehead to rest on the mat, gently roll it side to side. And when you're ready, pause for stillness and return to the breath. I invite you now to tent your fingertips. So press your fingers really firmly into the mat while keeping your palms elevated. And notice how that activates some of the muscles around the shoulders. You can pulse here, kind of pressing into the fingertips and then unweighting and repeating that a few times. Nice. We'll use that later, it'll make more sense. You can let that go. And now rise up once again to our tabletop position. And this is my favorite lazy transition. Pick an animal. It can be any animal. Trust whichever one is the first one that comes to your mind. Doesn't even need to be an animal you particularly like. It can be, not a big deal. And like you are that animal, we are going to turn to face the other side. So move like that animal. This is such a kid thing, but it's fun for adults too. Plus we're, in pediatrics, so we're all just big kids at heart. I love trying to guess what people's animals are. You can tell me later if you want, but it's also, if you want to keep it secret, that's cool too. All right, guess what we're gonna do? Same thing, next side. So once again, the leg that is farthest away from the screen, it should be the opposite leg. You'll raise that knee up into the air and then bring it towards your opposite elbow. Play with that movement a few times, moving slowly, lubricating the hip. And, maybe not doing your 9 out of 10, like really boom, shoving that knee to the elbow, especially for the first few ones. Just kind of train your body to get used to that motion. And when you are ready, we're going to pause with our knee towards the elbow, drop the knee down, sit down the hips, extend out through that leg, and turn towards the opposite direction. We'll shine our heart up and down just like before, really feeling that lengthening and that shearing throughout my left side of the body, but it might be a different side of the body for you. All right, let's windmill our palms away from us. Drag that back knee closer and send that opposite knee up into the air once again. Repeat this movement. Again, you can follow me in my cues, or you can even just close your eyes and do your own thing. Send the knee down, sit back the hips, extend out that top leg. Great. And we'll do that just maybe one more time. If you're pausing in child's pose, awesome. Taking a break at any point. Okay, take your time. There's no rush, but once you've finished up that side, we're going to once again widen apart our knees, send back our hips, pause in child's pose or devotional pose. If this isn't serving you, I know for some the knees can get a little sensitive. You can fold over your mat or grab a blanket if you've got one nearby. Or you can also go on your back and choose any other pose that works for you. So 3 options. You can stay just like this, soaking in the moment. You can tent your fingertips and press in like we did before. to kind of strengthen and activate those shoulders. Or if you want to try something a little bit different, walk your elbows out and then bring your palms together and put them over your head like a bit of a shark fin. This is a really great release of the tops of the shoulders and the triceps, but it can be a little intense, so feel free to pick your favorite. They all have their own benefits and there's really no wrong choice. Wherever you're at, we'll pause here for 3 more breaths. All right, let's press into our palms, into our legs to rise up together to a tabletop. Good opportunity to get water, take a little break, pet your dog, as the case may be. Winston got a pat. Okay, now we're gonna choose an animal. It can be the same one as before or a different one. And we're gonna do the same thing again. We're gonna flip to the other side. This will be the last time we do this, so feel free to get funky with it. I'm a chinchilla right now, in case anyone's wondering. All right, now, you'll notice we're in tabletop. You can do the same sequence that we just did, using the leg that's farther away. You'll get lots of benefits. Or if you want to explore something a little different, feel free to tuck under the toes and press up and back into our downward facing dog. This can be a lot. Again, I want to make sure that everyone can take something away from this class. So if you're like, Mel, this is not for me today, no stress, feel free to do the same thing that we did. If you're feeling okay in downward dog, you can rise up that back heel and bend the knee into a 3-legged dog. If this is going okay for you, just like before, you bring the knee to the opposite elbow. Looking good, ladies. Send it back. Once again, you can bring the knee to the opposite elbow, and from here you can put it on the mat, or you can spin out into a bit of a side plank with the foot extended. That's totally okay for like, that's crazy, I'm not gonna do that. Either way, we're all gonna sit on our hips. You've got this leg extended, and bam, we're gonna be in the same pose that we were in before. There's parallels. Pause here. Windmill our palms over and take a minute to decide if you want to do the downward dog or the tabletop. If you want to do tabletop, bring that top knee closer and send it back. If you're like, I want to see how it feels in downward dog, spin over into a mini plank and then send it back to your downward dog. We'll do that just one more time because it's a lot. So opposite knee to opposite elbow, drop the knee or press into a mini side plank. Sit the hips down and spin out into this pose, which is Parivrtta Janu Shirshasana, in case anybody was wondering that. Awesome, looking good. Okay. We're now just going to go to a regular downward dog. Take your time getting there. And if this is not for you, feel free to pause and tabletop. We've worked a lot on our core. I invite you to take the palm that is farther away from the screen to grasp towards the opposite ankle. You can look towards me. You can grab at the shin or the thigh too. If that's not working for you, another option is to bring the knee and elbow together in tabletop like so. Believe it or not, same benefits, they just look different. In case, I told Roger Zemek I'd have some stuff that would be difficult for him too, if you wanted to watch later. So for any Rogers or anyone who's feeling super strong, you can push into your palm that is on the mat and see if you can even raise the opposite foot. So I'm just on my left palm and left foot. This is silly stuff. Feel free to not do this. If you do fall, you're only a couple inches from the mat. It happens to me a lot. let's all bring it back down because I'm falling out. Everybody come down to your knees, sit back onto your heels, and let's give those wrists a break. Good job, everybody. I'm hoping we can all take away from this that, we're stronger than we think and that we can do hard things. And sometimes the hard thing isn't like muscling into a pose and being like, yeah. Sometimes the hard thing is like having the courage to choose a pose that is right for you. Even if that pose is like, I'm just gonna chill in child's pose and ignore what the instructor is saying. Like that is a-okay. Okay, we're going to press on up just once more on this side into downward dog. Take your time getting there. We're not gonna do anything crazy. We're just going to walk our feet towards our palms and hang in a forward fold position. You can experiment with bending through the knees. It really like lengthens out the back a little bit more. Or if you lengthen through your knees, you can feel it on your hamstrings. And you can try to find a spot where you feel that even lengthening, that even stretch throughout the backs and the hamstrings. Awesome. As we inhale, slide your palms up towards your thighs, turning your body into a bit of a flat back position. And now let's exhale towards the mat. Now, as slow as you can, send your weight back into your heels and rise on up vertebrae by vertebrae, feeling the back side of your body catch you and really just savoring the journey, not worrying about what comes next. Whew. Feel that flush of energy at the top, looking good. And now we're just going to go for a little bit of a walk, walking back and forth across our mat, noticing how we feel. And you might notice you feel a little different from side to side. I feel a little bit more conscious of what's happening in my left hip right now, because that just got some work. All right, now that we've just noticed this, let's even out the sides. We can turn to face the opposite edge of the mat that you were before. Inhale to reach on up, and then exhale to fold over the legs, bending the knees generously, arriving in your Uttanasana forward fold. Nice. From here, you can step back one foot, step back the other foot, either coming to our knees or coming into a brief plank, and take a minute to decide if you want to try downward dog or tabletop. Either one is great. Send your hips up and back for downward dog, or bring your knees to the earth for tabletop. We're going to do that same movement. Again, you've seen it both from downward dog and tabletop, so pick your favorite. We're going to unweight and lift up our back leg, the one that's further from the screen, bend through the knee to come into a three-legged dog. Excellent, and then send that knee towards the opposite elbow. You can do that once or twice. Option to drop the knee or to come into a side plank. And then drop the hips down, coming into our twist. Nice. Windmill the arms down. Feel free to play at your own pace. You can follow my movements or do your own thing. Nice. Okay, wherever you're at, take your time. I invite you to meet us either in tabletop or in downward facing dog. In tabletop, you can bring the knee and the elbow together and really try to squeeze them towards each other to feel that activation in the core. If you're in downward dog, you can send your palm that is farther away from the screen towards your opposite leg. And once again, you can hang out here, or if you want to like float that back foot a little bit, feel free, see how it goes. Ooh. Oh. There we go, see? No shame if you're falling out. I am on the struggle bus this time. But if we don't struggle, we don't grow. So, respect to wherever you're at. Let's all pause in downward dog. And let's all now bring our knees down into the mat. Send our hips back over our heels. Roll up the wrists. And do a little victory dance to yourself. Regardless of how things went, you are here, you've showed up. We're doing wellness, and that in and of itself deserves a victory dance. All right. If you're like, Mel, I came to yoga to not move and do mindless stretching, don't worry. We're almost there, okay? So if you'll bear with me just to even out this side, I invite you to tuck under the toes, press up and back to downward facing dog, and just like before, slowly walk your feet, enjoying the journey up towards your palms. You can bend through your knees generously. It doesn't really matter how you get here, as long as you move in a way that feels good. On your next inhale, catch a wave and slide your palms up your thighs, rising to a halfway lift. Great, and then exhale to fold forward. Catch another wave of inhale, shift your weight back, and nice and slowly, savoring the moment, rise on up to a standing Tadasana mountain pose. Feel that flush of energy on the top. And we'll pause here for a breath or two. Allowing any tension to melt away. Now let's go for a little walk. Just noticing how we feel. You can go back and forth on your mat, or you can also go off your mat. Notice if you feel more of a connection between your hips and shoulders. It's okay if you don't. There's no wrong way to feel. That's what I'm noticing, but we'll all take away different things. Perfect. Okay. Now I invite you to pause and you can just face the screen. Take a moment here. There's an optional sequence that I will provide, and you don't need to do it, but we've cultivated a lot of strength, a lot of energy, and sometimes it's nice to kind of expel that. So what we would do, and you'll watch me before you do it, is you turn to face the short edge of the mat, step forward with the foot that is closest to the screen, and catch a little bit of air time, almost like you're doing slow motion running. This is pretty fun to do. You can feel nice and bouncy. You can even see if you might want to go all the way forward into a revolved half moon. Something you can try and experiment with. Totally okay if you keep both your feet on the ground. If you are super solid in the revolved half moon, I'll just show this, no need to do it. You can raise on up the opposite way, into a revolved tree and play between these two movements. I like to give options for everyone. I'm actually struggling on the balance bus today. I blame the carpet, but it could also just be me. All right, so let's face the short edge of the mat, step forward with the foot that's closest to the screen, and totally okay if we're working here, just rock and rolling back and forth, maybe catching a bit of air time with that back foot. Excellent. Should make folks sign a waiver. That looks really good. I see some feet floating up in the air. Whoops. If you did want to play with that twisted tree position, you can. All right, we'll pause there. Everyone meet in a forward fold, letting that go. You can shake your hips a little bit side to side. And this time, we'll slowly roll up all the way. Going for a little walk, turning to face the opposite side. Alrighty, this time again, we'll get the foot that is closest to the screen. Step forward and kind of reach with your opposite arm, maybe catching a little bit of air time with that back foot every time. And it's totally okay if one side's easier than the other. This is my slightly more wobbly side, but every now and again it surprises me. Good, I see some nice balancing. All right, wherever you're at, let's step both feet up together and forward fold. I think we've had some good time to play there. Excellent. Now this time, we're going to plant our palms as we walk back our feet, coming into our very last plank, either on our toes or on our knees. Some people really like to hold a good plank, so we'll pause here for 4 breaths, knowing that you can come to your knees or your belly at any point in time. 1 last breath. All right, if you're not there, let's come to our knees and let's all lower our chest down onto the mat, allowing the forehead to come down, rock and rolling side to side to get a bit of a massage. If you are like me and you've got some extra nose, feel free to make a little platform with your palms and you can massage your forehead on your palms to give your lovely nose a bit of extra space. All right, from here, let's come to a Sphinx pose where we place our elbows underneath our shoulders and shine that heart forward. If you feel any pinching in your low back, you can move your elbows a little bit further forward so that it's not as intense. We want to make sure that we are lengthening through the front of the body, giving our core a bit of a break, but not like pinching so intensely that we show any pain to our low back. Pause here. You can lift your chin up ever so slightly to really enhance that feeling. Excellent. And now I recommend you kind of shimmy closer to the screen so that you're almost off your mat. Take your arm that's farther from the screen, send it forward, and then rock and roll onto your back. Take your time. Doesn't really matter how you get here. And now we've got a few minutes where you can enjoy any last poses your body's craving. I want to bring my knees towards my armpits and rock and roll back and forth. It's a nice little massage for the back. Some people like to do a happy baby pose. Some folks are like, nope, I already want to go into my Shavasana corpse pose. That is fine. You can also use this time to grab any extra props or things that you might need for an extra cozy Shavasana time. All right. Once you're satisfied, pause for stillness. For your final resting pose, you can extend out your arms and legs like we did before. Or if you felt really supported with your feet on the mat, knees together, you can do that as well. There's no right or wrong. Grab any props or things that you like. And we will rest here for a good 5 minutes. Now I know for some of us, that's scarier than any muscly sort of strength pose we did before. Resting in stillness can be really tricky. But yoga is all about balance, the union of mind and body, and also the union of movement and stillness. So get cozy. You can make little micro movements throughout, but I invite you to turn your attention to your breath. Imagine that there is a bubble surrounding you. And inside this bubble is your mind, your body, your spirit. And that's all that matters right now. Everything else, what we're going to do today, etc., all of that is on the outside of the bubble. And we've got 4 minutes to completely ignore that and turn inwards. Feel your body sinking into the mat. Allow any tension between your eyebrows and your jaw to melt away. Notice where your mind has gone. It's totally okay if thoughts are creeping up. You can imagine watching the thoughts in your mind's eye come and float away without you actually picking up or engaging in the thought. Imagine that the breath is passively inflating and deflating your body, like it's something happening to you rather than something that you're doing. We don't have much longer together, I promise. So really feel yourself sinking into and savoring this moment. Letting everything go. You can start to turn your attention back to the body and slowly, like you're made of chocolate and you're going to break it, wiggle your fingers and toes. I don't know if that analogy made sense, but you know what? It came to me. I think I'm craving chocolate. You can start to roll out your wrists and ankles. And allow the head to fall from side to side. Use the momentum of these movements to start to rock side to side. You can bring your knees in, depending on what position you're in. And allow yourself to fall towards the screen. You can use your head as a pillow. Of course, you're welcome to stay down in your Shavasana and not move at all if you want. But if you want some guidance in getting up and on with your day, press into your palms and slowly rise on up to a seated position. Awesome. Thank you very much, everyone, for sharing this yoga practice with me. Hope it met your expectations. Always happy for feedback on anything you'd like to see in another class. But thank you so much and have a lovely day.
Thanks, Mel.
Thanks, Mel. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Mel. That was awesome.
Thanks for coming, Waleed. Hope you got some sleep.